Hello everybody, it's Max McAllister back with How to Be a Better Group Cyclist, part 4. We're going to call this edition number 4. And this section is going to deal with riding with lights for night riding in groups. Lots of groups kind of shut down riding for the winter, and so you'll end up having to search around and find groups that do ride at night. So when you do find groups that ride at night, though, there's a whole new set of rules that goes with that, and that works around the lighting that you have on your bike. So I'm going to read through a few things, and then I'll kind of come back and elaborate. So to ride your bike at night, in pretty much every state, lights are required front and rear by law. Most groups won't even let you leave the parking lot if you don't have lights on your bike. Should go without saying, make sure you show up with your lights and that they're fully charged. Lots of people in groups will tend to have backup lights, and we're going to talk about backup lights. And so hopefully, and a lot of times you can help somebody out or they'll help you out. But again, try to not be the person that's unprepared. Try and develop a system of getting your gear when you're heading out of the house, so you grab everything in a certain order to be sure you don't forget anything. Make sure everything's charged and kind of ready to rock. Your headlight needs to be white. That's the law. They need to be aimed down, leading your front wheel, but not way out in the distance. So you're not trying to offend oncoming motorists with your light. So it should be aimed downward in a fashion that's going to be reasonable for the speed you're going. So I'll talk about that some later. Headlights should never be flashing. Now, we're talking about night riding in a group here. So that's where these things are, that's where the points I'm going to talk are coming from. If you're riding alone and you want to ride with a flashing headlight or a flashing taillight, that kind of stuff, if you want to be your own nuisance, you can be, but that's your goal is to not offend motorists, make yourself visible, and improve your safety. Making cars mad does not make you safer, just so by doing crazy things with lights. For riding in a group, there's two things we're trying to accomplish with lights. One is, it's not just enough to mark your bike. So a commuter might have lights that just mark their bike. Maybe they're not going to be going very fast. They just need to be kind of visible to a car. If you're riding in a group of cyclists, some might be riding pretty quickly. So if you're riding in a group that's faster, you're going to need a more powerful light. So you're actually trying to light the ground. So you're going to have to invest in a decent light. One that's 500 lumens or better. It seems that anywhere, 500 lumens would be the absolute minimum that you could probably get away with or should try and get away with for your headlight. The more is merrier, more is better. Helmet lights, not allowed on most group rides. Now, when you go mountain biking, it's one thing to ride with a headlight in the forest because you're not really interacting with other cyclists. And if you're riding with friends, you're not going to turn and put your headlight into their face. But in a road ride, headlights are a no-go because you blind the other cyclists around you all the time. So no headlights, no helmet-mounted lights on a group ride. And they're also hazardous. Road cyclists are always looking back to see what's going on before they change position, change lanes, where's a car. So when you turn around and there's some big bright light in your face, it can snow blind you, and now everything's more dangerous. So no helmet lights. Let's see. Taillights must be red. That's the law. You want them aimed horizontally or downward towards the ground, okay? And in a group ride, they need to be on a low setting and not flashing. We're going to come back to that. Only one light lighted per bike is required. If you have additional lights, you want to save them in case you have a failure. So let's kind of just jump right into the whole lights and flashing and such, and location and mounting. So you can go on the internet and review and find light reviews. They're complex, numerous, and many all over the internet. I'm not going to recommend a size of light or a brand. I just do know that you need to have a certain level of brightness, otherwise it's just useless. Most you can find are conveniently USB rechargeable. Those seem to be best. And they'll range in price anywhere from, you know, some Chinese ones you can find, a company called Cree that work okay. But they have a big, heavy, cumbersome battery. So if you can get one that's integrated, it's cleaner and more reliable so that you don't have cables and wires and things messing up like that. So this would be an example of a kind of a typical headlight. They'll mostly have a high beam, a low beam, and a flash setting and off. On the high end of the spectrum is a headlight from Garmin. This actually integrates with a computer. It's speed sensitive, light sensitive, so this is a highest end kind of product. This is a $200 light. It mounts to your bike with a quarter turn. The light sensor on the top of your Garmin computer adjusts the brightness of the battery depending on the ambient light of the neighborhood you're in. It's also speed sensitive, so when you go slow, it turns on a low beam. When you pick up speed, it turns on a high beam. So this is kind of state of the art at, you know, $199 kind of thing. So that's the nicest light I know of. But there's tons in between for much less money. But you should have two of some nature. So I carry a second light out of the way, not in the middle of my controls bothering me anywhere. Just in case something went wrong with my primary light, I have a secondary light. I've kind of reviewed Garmin tail lights. Again, these are the high end. They're radar. They integrate with all the lighting on the bike, and the system forms a network with the computer. This is, again, the most advanced thing. These are like, you know, right in the just under $200 range, quarter turn mount. So that's kind of the high end. Tail lights are cheaper than headlights. You can find them for, you know, $15 to $50 for a really nice one. You want to find one that has a low setting. It's important to find one in low setting. In fact, in the instructions on some of them, it's actually called the group ride setting. So the reason you want that is you do not want to blind the rider behind you. So the big mistake and problem people in groups understand is you get really militant people that are convinced that they need to have this thing that looks like a 747 landing, and they've got flashers and multiple lights all going off at once and spirals and whiz bangs, and the thing looks like you're in a parade. That is not how you group cycle at night, okay? So you're trying to mark your bike, particularly for the cyclists behind you. This isn't really a concern that a car is going to run up and hit 25 cyclists, all with lights and reflective clothing and movement and colors. Cars aren't going to just drive into the middle of your group, okay? So, and if you're afraid of that, don't go riding a bike at night, okay? So if you're afraid that a car is just going to drive into the middle of your group, don't go riding at night, because you can also be a hazard to the group if you're scared, tentative, and do dangerous moves or stop suddenly frequently in the dark. So if you're not comfortable riding in the dark, don't go out in the dark. So taillights are there to mark your location for the other riders, provide a visual reference for the for a car if a car sees you, but you're not trying to alert motorists from 500 yards back. That's not what we're after. So you can't blind the cyclists behind you. That's the first problem. So your light needs to be level or pointed down. Mounting it to your seat post naturally puts it at a naturally good angle. If you have a tail light that's just too bright, you need to aim it off to the inside of the road so you don't blind the cyclists behind you. If you're unable to turn your light down low. Another huge mistake people make is mounting their light to their seat stay. This is literally the worst possible place to put the light. So it is aimed directly up into the face of the rider behind you. So now you're blinding the guy behind you or the gal behind you. No, 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 no. Don't put it there. So now some people, shorter riders that have smaller frame sets may not have much frame or much seat post to mount their light to. Almost every spares bag out there, people don't realize, has this little strap. It's there for a reason. This is a location to mount a tail light if you want. So you can quickly and easily mount a tail light right there. It's not going to bother anybody. It's not aimed in anyone's face. So there's the one location. If your bag doesn't have that, for what you're trying to do while you're road riding, you can put the light in your jersey pocket and it'll shine through your jersey pocket. Again, you're marking yourself for the riders around you. You're not really trying to alert cars from 500 yards away. Okay? There will be plenty of light. Cars will see you. Your clothing has, whether you know it or not, when you buy cycling clothing, there's reflective stuff built into it everywhere. It's moving, wiggling. As a group, you're extremely visible, so don't be concerned about that. So I recommend, even if you do have a fancy tail light, always carry a spare, strap it on the bike wherever you want. Doesn't really matter. You just want that in case one day your primary light fails, you have a backup. So this is definitely another scenario of where 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So another possibility is you get separated from a group. Who knows what happens, and you want to ride back. Maybe you're not feeling well. Who knows what? It's just not your day. Maybe it starts to rain. You don't want to ride in the rain, and you're going to head back to the parking lot. You need to be able to have your own lights. And if your lights were to fail, then you have to be able to turn on another light. So that's a good reason you should always carry 2 lights. And then for headlights, again, the higher level group you ride with, the faster you go, the more powerful headlight you're going to need. So if you're riding in a group that can average above 16 or 18 miles an hour in the dark, then you're going to want a pretty powerful headlight because the speed, your average speed you're traveling, the ground is going to come to you faster, so you need to be able to have a beam that will reach out farther and clearly light the road so that you can see any potholes and danger in the roadway. The other thing you'll have to get used to if you've not ridden at night is there's going to be shadows everywhere, lots of moving shadows. The night environment is one where it's extremely important to pay attention to all of the etiquette and skills that we're going to learn throughout this video series, because they all come even more into play when you're in an environment where there's little or no light. So those are the things. Now, there's a reason we don't do flashing lights backwards, and that's that basically it just blinds the rider behind you. Flashing light pulsing in another rider's eyes is extremely distracting. Now, you may not understand that, but you don't have to. Just turn your light to solid. Don't be a jerk, right? Every once in a while, you're going to find a jerk that won't turn his light to steady. There's no need to do that. It's the equivalent of walking into your room and throwing your clothes on the floor instead of putting them in the laundry basket. If it doesn't bother you to put them in the laundry basket, put them in the laundry basket, okay? So this is the same thing. You can't see your tail light, and your tail light doesn't bother you. But if it bothers everyone behind you, put your tail light on steady. Don't be a jerk. Now, there's tons of science that that proves actually flashing lights are an attraction to motorists, not a detraction or not an alert thing. They'll actually attract like a moth to a flame. And in the rarest of instances, it can actually, in a rare instance, not going to happen hopefully in your lifetime, or hopefully you never see it, but a flashing light can trigger an epileptic seizure in someone who's got those kind of conditions. So flashing lights, just no, you don't need them. It doesn't do anything. If you honestly believe that your one single light flashing in the middle of 25 bikes with thousands of moving parts wiggling and shining is going to be the reason a car doesn't hit you, just don't get in a group and ride. Go ride somewhere else by yourself. That's not going to be the reason you live or die, is that your taillight is flashing. So, steady taillight, steady headlight. And I think that kind of covers lighting. There is one other thing. I have not seen or hadn't heard of any laws or anything. People that have these kind of cool, colorful side lit wheels don't seem to bother anyone in a group that I've ever noticed. And they've even got ones that have little moving pictures and holograms and things in them. I've not seen any laws against that or heard of any rules that are adverse, and I've not seen anybody kind of complain about that or have any adverse effect from that. So, tail light, low setting, high light, headlight, appropriate for the speed you're going to be going, and make sure you carry backups, be charged and ready to rock. All right, so this is Max. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and see you soon.